My name is Edda Maina. I'm the CEO of Kenya Society for the Mentally Handicapped. I'm also the UN Vice President for the Committee on the Rights of People with Disabilities. What I would want to say is that the rights of people with disabilities have for a long time been violated. They're across the board. The rights to health, the rights to education, right to equal opportunities, including access to employment. And if you look at the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, there are 30 articles which are very important, which have set out obligations of different state parties and other actors, and has also laid out the rights that must be recognized on an equal basis with others. Now, what we would do in this case, we would look at the anti-discrimination provisions of the Constitution, which protects the rights of people with disabilities. We would also look at the Disability Act, although at the moment it's got a lot of gaps, but it gives at least a provision that 5% of all employment opportunities should be held by people with disabilities. Unfortunately, it is not adhered to, but it is because there has not been active monitoring and reporting of lack of compliance, and also we should also monitor compliance. Like there should be an institution that is monitoring different state agencies. What employees do they have? Do they have 5% of those employees as people with disabilities? And when we look at people with disabilities, we must also not marginalize within the disability, because there are people with hearing impairment, there are people with physical disability, there are people with visual impairment, and there are people with mental disabilities. All people must be well represented within the 5%. So that must be very clear. And it is not upon the employee to make the employment environment conducive for her accessibility needs. If they are using wheelchairs, it is upon the employer to ensure that the physical environment of the company or the organization can be accessed by person with disability, including the private toilets and all other facilities. If it's a person with hearing impairments, the company should go to an extra mile and ensure there is constant sign language interpretation for the employee with hearing impairment. If there is a person with intellectual disability, there is supported employment. In developed countries, they are working in supermarkets, they are working in companies, in packaging and all that. In Kenya, we do not have these people in the work environment because they are not properly facilitated. So what we are saying is that as at now, we have a very good constitution that is very progressive. Actually, in the whole world, it's the most progressive constitution that is there. We do have the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Now, what is left to be done is to ensure that especially the institutions that have been established under the new constitution are not just sitting but working to ensure that all these rights are realized. It's unfortunate that the Kenya Society for the Mentally Handicapped have been forced to take the government to court. There is a lot that I can't comment at the moment. It is a human rights and constitutional violation case. And there are a lot of issues we are looking into, including loss of public funds that are allocated for programs and services for people with disabilities. Without touching on the case, I think I would separately want to mention, like in 2009, different grants for people with disability were established. Some of these grants have just got lost. They've been given to organizations where 90% of those organizations do not exist. Some other community-based organizations are registered by the officers under the Ministry of Gender, the same people who decide who gets the money from the kitty, and they end up giving money to their own relatives, and there's a lot of nepotism. So we need not just the constitution to be in place and the different pieces of registration to be in place, but we want action. And I think action must be matched with articulation of who have adhered to the law and who have not adhered to the law.
Okay, thank you.